463728, and I've never really seen this before. I saw Joe Rogan tearing up, listening to stories about wrongfully convicted death row inmates. I wasn't choked up at the time. I don't know if this is the first time that he's heard of these stories. There are two guys who work with the Innocence Project. This was episode 1521, and it was Josh Dubin and Jason Flom. One of them, I believe maybe Jason Flom, is the criminal attorney. I guess you have real estate attorneys and business attorneys. And Josh Dubin is someone in the record industry. He's worked with a couple of people that he mentioned. Anyway, these guys talked about how they first got into the Innocence Project, where I guess Josh Dubin, he heard about somebody, like he just said he picked up a magazine or something, and he heard about someone who was wrongfully convicted in prison. I don't know if he funded he spoke to someone that he knew who was an attorney and got them to take the case pro bono, and he went and spent a long time with this one particular person trying to get their conviction overturned. And the attorney was telling him that, hey, we don't really have much of a shot here. And he didn't seem to remember what happened. He just said that the judge said blah blah blah, banged the gavel, and the attorney turned to him and said, we won. And Jason Flom, if he's the attorney guy, basically he was saying that he got a phone call from someone who was involved in the O.J. Simpson trial, and he thought it was his brother pranking him because they used to watch the trial. He was very knowledgeable about it, and someone called him up and said that, hey, I referred this person to you, and you don't answer his call. And he realized it was a real call. He was a jury expert. He said he was 27 and a lawyer. He mentioned that being so young and being an expert, he would lie about his age because people would wonder if they could take him seriously, but they could. I don't know if he went too much into it. At any rate, they started talking about the basic people who they'd gotten off, and one of the big things was the lawyer said that most of forensic science, everything that we see on CSI and Law and Order and many other shows like Dexter, blood splatter analysis, he said that except for DNA, everything else was basically junk science. And Joe Rogan pushed back and said, hey, I have, I guess, one of these mouth guards. And he was saying, I can't remember his exact words, but he was essentially saying that, yeah, my mouth guard has a mold of my mouth. So, what's up with that? And the attorney said, listen, that is a hard substance. When it comes to skin, that is everything goes out the window, because it's almost impossible. If someone with no front teeth bites down, it can look as if they have teeth in the indentation. If someone who has very long incisors bites down on a skin, it can look as if they have none of those front teeth. When it comes to skin, how long the person died, the age of the person, the environment that they were in, that the body was in, all of these different things can make interpreting a bite impossible. Not virtually, just impossible. In some instances, things that were not even a bite can look like a bite. And, that's just talking about bite marks. When it comes to blood splatter, again, a whole bunch of other things can change. The temperature of the blood, the speed at which the two things meet, heights of different things, whether the person is dead or alive. And he mentioned that he has a podcast talking about all of this kind of stuff. And the idea is that once one judge allowed these types of science into the case, it becomes a precedent. And once there's a precedent, everybody allows that same science into the trial system. And they all will look back at that precedent and say, hey, he allowed it, so we're all going to do it. And it's kind of really shocking to see how flippant these kind of things can happen. All it takes is one person to allow it. One person who might not completely understand what is involved in this particular type of forensic science to allow it, and then everything falls apart. Things that should not be allowed are allowed by everybody because of this one person, this one trial judge. At some point, Joe Rogan would have asked them, well, let's get into some of the people who were wrongfully convicted. And he asked, how do you know that they were wrongfully convicted? And in the case of one particular story, it was a really in detail story about a guy from, I think, El Salvador or Nicaragua, where MS-13 is, so it probably is El Salvador. The guy managed to come to America. Very interesting story, his background, how he came to America. They said he almost drowned crossing the Rio Grande. And at any point, he was living next to a trailer with some women, 3 generations, daughter, mother, grandmother. They were murdered. He had gone in, tried to check for vitals, got blood all over him. He ran off. But at some point, instead of leaving town, he went to someone and he spoke to them and he said, listen, I'm going to go to the police and tell them about what I found. Now, up to this point, that's no proof that he's innocent. But the police, they just take him as a suspect, and they arrest him based on him going back to offer information about it. And the evidence seems to be pretty profound. They found the daughter's blood amongst the blood splatters. There was a 3-finger mark of blood, presumably by the killer. When the attorney was interviewing the daughter, he realized that she had, one of her fingers had a problem. So he asked her, what's wrong with your fingers? And she said, well, she cut herself. She used to cut herself. And she cut one of her fingers, I guess one of the tendons for her fingers. And he asked her, the night that you killed your mother and grandmother, is that what happened with your fingers? And she said yes. Furthermore, she has something called intermittent explosive disorder. I was supposed to take a look at that, but the idea is that she had ended up, I guess, in a facility, a mental facility, and she threatened that when she got out, she would kill her mother and her grandmother. Furthermore, her boyfriend, apparently he told his wife, her ex-boyfriend told his then wife that yes, she had in fact left him the night of to go to the trailer to kill these people. And she was telling people around town that she did it and that she would do the same to them. Of course, the guy didn't even have a motive anyway. So yeah, and I think it was this particular story where Joe Rogan, I think it was a lawyer who was telling the story. He was like, hey man, you're tearing up. And Joe Rogan was like, yeah, I can't believe this story. I can't believe what's going on. And at that point, yeah, we started hearing him sniffle. We hadn't heard it before, but he really genuinely, this made him very emotional, apparently. And they went into the fact that other people, other clients, other people who were wrongfully convicted, about cops who had planted evidence, about cops who had beaten confessions out of people, about judges who insisted on not overturning cases, who actually sought out the cases where the people were wrongfully convicted to make sure that they were judges on subsequent trials, to make sure that the person would not get out of prison. And, they even mentioned Kamala Harris, that she was one of the prosecutors who, faced with apparently incontrovertible evidence, or even not even incontrovertible evidence, she didn't even want people to get their DNA tested in order to apply for new trials. And, Joe Rogan is like, listen, did anything happen to these people? The cops who beat up to get the wrongful confession, the cops who planted evidence, anything? And they mentioned again, that's something that we might have heard, these people have qualified immunity, whether judges or prosecutors or anybody involved. They have qualified immunity, meaning that for most of the things that they do, nothing that they do will ever get them in trouble for the most part, unless it's really extenuating circumstances. And then even if they are, for some reason, and this is mostly cops, charged, with respect to the guy who was running away. There's a black guy who ran away from some cops, or a cop. He fought with the cop and he was running away from the cop. Did not have gun or anything. Cop shot him in the back 5 times. The state trials were hung juries. 2 subsequent hung juries. The only reason the guy is in prison is because of a federal charge, and he is trying to overturn that right now. I can't remember if the guy's name is Samuel Dubois. No, I think it's Walter Scott. Walter Scott, the guy who shot him, somebody took cell phone video of this guy shooting him in the back from 20 feet away. He's trying to get his conviction overturned. So, but these guys are really, really amazing. I think I just have one thing left to say, which is that Joe Rogan was saying that, if we get people involved learning to fight, everything will be better, and not just the people who are bullied, even the bullies. If the bullies are taught how to fight, they're going to calm down. Now, at this point, I will say, obviously, Joe Rogan seems to be forgetting all about all of the Karate Kids. These were people bullying each other. And he might say, you know what, hey, that's a movie. Unfortunately, one of these people brought up Mike Tyson. He's so super sweet. And, Mike Tyson bit 2 of Evander Holyfield's ear and bit piece off one of them. You might say, okay, well, that's in the ring. He was convicted of rape. And you say, oh, okay. His ex-wife said that he beat her. So, no, learning to fight is not going to automatically make you a better person. And, Joe mentioned stuff like this, like when it comes to people taking mushrooms. If you take a trip, it changes you, you're going to be a better person. No, it doesn't work then either. There's no cure-all, there's no magic pill. And it's a little bit cringy to hear him mention these things that are demonstrably false. Anyway, guys, wish me luck. You can like, unlike, or comment. And if you're really, really, really interested, maybe you can subscribe and or share. And of course, beyond all of this, you can do nothing. Peace.